class? Don't you just love fall? It's so awesome how the leaves change colors and the weather gets cooler. And one of my favorite things about fall is Thanksgiving.
Have you ever wondered, who is at the first Thanksgiving? Let's take a look at a poem and see if we can find the answer. The First Thanksgiving by Jack Polutsky. When the Pilgrims first gathered to share with their Indian friends in the mild autumn air, they lifted their voices in jubilant praise for the bread on the table, the berries and maize, for the field and the forest, for turkey and deer, for the bountiful crops they were blessed with that year. They were thankful for these as they feasted away, and as they were thankful today. So did you catch who was at the first Thanksgiving? The Indians and the Pilgrims. Let's take a closer look. The Indians are today better known as Native Americans, and they lived in North America, which is where we live today. The Pilgrims, on the other hand, lived in Europe, but they were unhappy there and they wanted to leave. So these people that were unhappy and wanted to leave were called pilgrims. But what is a pilgrim?
A pilgrim is someone who goes on a long journey.
On September 6th, in the year 1620, the Pilgrims left on Mayflower for a new world. 102 people rode the Mayflower boat for 66 days. That is a lot of people.
On November 9th in the year 1620, the Pilgrims finally hit land in Cape Cod, Massachusetts.
The English-speaking Pilgrims got off the Mayflower boat and stepped onto a new world. This new world that the Pilgrims had found was the home of the Native American people. What the Pilgrims called a new world was actually home to the Native Americans for quite some time.
The Native Americans did not speak English. They had their own language and culture that the Pilgrims did not understand.
The Native Americans lived in houses that were very different than what the Pilgrims were used to. They lived in teepees, wigwams, and longhouses. This is what a teepee would look like. This is an example of a wigwam. And this one is a log house. Can you imagine what a teepee would look like today in Times Square? The Native Americans built their own houses and lived in tribes.
A tribe is a community of close-knit families that help each other out. The Native Americans relied on the land for everything that they had, for their clothes, their food, everything.
They were also expert hunters. They made their own tools, knew the best spots, and knew the best ways to hunt, fish, and farm. In fact, the Native Americans were so good at hunting, fishing, and farming that they taught the Pilgrims these important skills.
The Native Americans made their own clothing out of the skins of animals. They also made things like pots for cooking out of clay from the dirt.
Overall, the Native Americans were able to produce everything they needed to survive just from the land.
This area over here describes everything about the Pilgrims. This circle over here describes everything about the Native Americans. See how they intersect? That means they had things in common too.
The Native American and Pilgrim children liked to play just like you and me, and their families came together to celebrate the first Thanksgiving. Did you know the first Thanksgiving lasted about a week?
Although the first Thanksgiving might not have had as many wonderful foods as you'll have this year for Thanksgiving, they had wonderful bird to eat.
They were just happy to share the meal with all their friends and family.
Shortly after the first Thanksgiving, the Native Americans and the Pilgrims started to argue over land. The Pilgrims tried to take the Native Americans' land, and today the government has set aside special land for the Native Americans called a reservation. The reservation is a place where the Native Americans are safe and protected from other people.
This is video footage from Pine Ridge Reservation in South Dakota. Many family members live in one house. This means you might live with your grandma, your grandpa, your aunt, and your uncle, as well as your parents. This is the local high school. The kids on the reservation go to school just like you and me. Despite their differences, the Native Americans and the Indians were also very similar. Together, they started a holiday that we still celebrate today, Thanksgiving.